Hello and welcome to the Case Study Part 2 overview. In this video, we will be covering Case Study Part 2, Sections 1, 2, and 3, Units 3 and 4, and how to apply what you've learned, the discussion board, which is where you go when you have questions about the case study, grading expectations, and on what you can do to make a passing grade, and then also the Case Study Frequently Asked Questions, which lists these questions specifically for the case study. Let's review what makes up the case study again. The case study is divided into 4 components. These components are building blocks where you apply the information from the previous part in addition to the new materials that you've recently learned. For instance, in Part 1, we applied the information that we learned in Units 1 and 2, so good job. In Part 2, this is where we'll apply the information that we've learned in Units 3 and 4 in addition to those prior Units 1 and 2. In Part 3, this is where you will apply what you've learned in Units 5 and 6, in addition to the previous units. And then the final part is where you will apply what you learned in Unit 7, in addition to all the units covered throughout the semester. For more information on availability periods, please check out this schedule. So let's go over what makes up Case Study Part 2. As you can see, it's divided into 3 different sections. In Section 1, you will assess your client's budget that they have provided to you. Based on the information, you will need to review their current debts and how they were prioritized by your clients in comparison to what they should be and explain why they may or may not be different. You will express your concerns and identify if they are able to reach their goal based on their current financial situation. You will also need to provide them with 2 suggestions on how they can avoid payday loans or short-term cash loans and what the consequences would be if they continue to rely on these methods. Next, in Section 2, you will prepare recommendations that you will explain to your clients that they need to work on before your next meeting. You will also need to provide them with helpful information about credit scores and reports, how those 2 topics are different, and where they can gather this information. Your clients still need clarification on why they were sent to a financial counseling agency instead of working with a financial advisor. So be sure to explain the differences between a financial counselor and a financial advisor. You will also need to create 3 questions that you will start your next meeting to help them with their financial situation. And finally, Section 3. This section is a professional summary that you're to write to your managing financial counselor. So this is meant to be written to a manager instead of to your client. This means that you can write in professional terms and gear the conversation about your clients instead of to your clients. Your manager needs to know what form of counseling is appropriate to use for your clients and why you selected this form, and also include what techniques and strategies you use to navigate the difficult situation. So now let's move on to what we've covered since the last part. So we've learned some new content in Units 3 and 4. In Unit 3, we learned the different types of credit, from mortgages, credit cards, to student loans, just to name a few. We also learned what it means to prioritize debt and the importance of doing so, along with the difference between conventional and convenient credit. In Unit 4, we started the financial counseling book where we discussed the financial counseling foundation and process. We also determined what is effective communication based on different strategies and techniques. These concepts can be applied to the Case Study Part 2. For Section 1, you would utilize the information you learned in Unit 3, continuing to build on what you learned from Unit 2. For Section 2, you would apply the information that you learned in Units 3 and 4. And for Section 3, you would use the information that you learned from Unit 4. So say you have a question about the case study. Your first stop should be the case study discussion board. If you happen to send an email to the instructor via Blackboard, the instructor may direct you back to the case study discussion board because other students may have the same question, and it's a great opportunity for everyone to learn. As you can see, there are 3 threads that have already been posted. Each section has its own thread, so you click on that thread and ask your question there. The bottom is for Section 1, the middle is for Section 2, and the top is for Section 3. This is a great opportunity to ask your peers. And if you know the answer, guide your peers in the right direction. What this means is that it's not meant for you to share your answers or calculations. It's just a place you can go to ask questions and get guidance. Most likely, you're not the only person with that question. So this is monitored by the instructor, and the instructor will provide feedback if the guidance is headed in the right direction, and if it's not, redirect that guidance. So what are the grading expectations for the case study? Make sure to be clear and concise. What does this mean? When reading through your answers, it needs to be clear that you understand what you were writing about and you explain your answer in a manner that is to the point. Next, you need to make sure and use terms from the required readings. If you write about topics that aren't relevant or unrelated to the required reading materials, this could negatively impact your grade. When you use terms from the reading materials, it's evident that you've read the materials and understand the concepts. Next, you need to make sure and cite your work. When you quote or use ideas that are not your own original ideas, you must give credit to the creator of those ideas or that work. If you're using information from the reading materials, which is what you're supposed to do, you must, and I repeat, you must cite that reference. If you don't know how to do that, I will cover that in another slide with some resources on how to learn here shortly. Next, you want to make sure to consider your audience. It is extremely important to consider your audience when writing a paper. If you are asked to write to your client, make sure to not use jargon or professional terms that an 8th grader wouldn't know. If you are asked to write to your supervisor or another professional, that's when it's okay to use jargon as long as you use it appropriately. A rule of thumb is write as if an 8th grader was to read your paper and would be able to understand the content. So next, make sure to answer all of the questions from the instructions and the rubric. At the end of the case study instructions, there's actually a checklist on what you need to do and what you need to include in your paper. Be sure to use this checklist when typing your paper. Also, when you begin to write your paper, it may be helpful to print out the rubric or have it pulled up so you can reference it while typing. By answering all the questions listed on the case study instructions, using the checklist at the end of the case study instructions, and following the rubric will provide you with the best opportunity at successfully receiving a passing grade. So for this next topic, I wanted to dive a little deeper into what it means when you're writing to a client. When you're writing out your responses, make sure to write them or write your responses as if you were having a conversation with your client. This can be done by using the pronouns you, yours, or your, etc. When you are suggesting or recommending to your clients or asking a question about a specific detail, you can address them by writing your budget indicates ... or it sounds like you ... or your goals. So using those pronouns, you, your, yours. In addressing your clients directly, you still want to make sure to keep it professional and leave out any jargon that they may not understand. If you find it necessary to use jargon, be sure to clarify it and explain it in a simpler manner that an 8th grader would be able to understand. When doing this, do your best to include all of the topics and recommendations that need to be discussed while keeping it short and sweet, meaning keeping it brief and to the point. So let's move on to the frequently asked questions. So this first one is where students struggle the most. So we briefly talked about this earlier, and here's where I'll share those resources. I have never cited or created a reference page. Where do I start, or what is APA formatting? First, there's a resource folder in Blackboard. Check that folder out. What you will find are several links. The first one is for the Texas Tech Library and how to cite your work. The second is for the Texas Tech University Writing Center, where they can assist you in how to format, check your grammar, and other writing tips. These first two are for Texas Tech University students only. So if you're a Texas Tech student, take advantage of these awesome resources. The third is called the Purdue OWL website, which is available to anyone. This website is an excellent resource to use when you need help on how to cite a certain book, article, website, or whatever reference you're using within your paper. You can also look up how to list your references or citations on the last page of your paper. The references should be a separate page that only has your references listed on that page. Another question, can I turn in my case study late? No. Case study assignments are due on the date stated on the schedule. If you happen to have a unique circumstance, please refer to the syllabus or contact the instructor via Blackboard. Be sure to check the schedule for availability periods and due dates. And finally, what if I turn in my paper in a PDF format? If you submit your assignment in a format other than what is stated on the instructions, this will result in receiving a grade of 0. The reason we must have you submit your work as a Microsoft Word or Excel document is so that we can run it through Turnitin. A PDF, JPEG, or other format is not compatible with how Turnitin processes these submissions. So let's review what we covered so far. We've gone over Case Study Part 2, Sections 1, 2, and 3. We've quickly reviewed the Units 3 and 4 and how to apply those to the case study. We've gone over the discussion board and how it's broken up into 3 different sections. We've gone over the grading expectations and what you can do to make a passing grade. And then we've also reviewed the case study frequently asked questions. So that's a wrap for Case Study Part 2 overview. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it was helpful. Remember to check the schedule for the availability periods and the due dates. Good luck!